how to plan your strength training for boxing and combat sports. Hello everybody, welcome to Boxing Science. In this video, I'm going to be sharing how to plan your strength training for boxing and combat sports. This is a very important area to make sure that you're ticking all the boxes and also improving your physical performance for boxing and combat sports. Now, this is a question that I receive a lot across social media or even on our coaching courses. And the reason why I get asked this so many times is because it's quite confusing for people. You're seeing all these different coaches across social media that are telling you to lift this amount of weight or do deadlifts, squats, do punch specific exercises. And it's very difficult to go, right, what exercises do I need? And how do I put that in an understandable and achievable format? In this video, we're going to give you that. We're going to give you a 10-stage checklist on what to implement into your training, how to condense this and put this into your training program. Check number 1 is mobility training. Putting in mobility training is really important for boxing because it's a very high demanding sport, high forces, high repetitions, and done under very fatiguing scenarios. Boxers spend hours in their boxing stands, throwing thousands of punches, and have a big reliance on the anterior shoulder with little rotation going through the hips, and also a lot of demand going through that lead shoulder in opposed to the rear shoulder. So you get a lot of imbalances. So it's really important that in your strength and conditioning programs is that you're applying mobility training. So at Boxing Science, we do the Boxing Science mobility warm-up where we do a range of different exercises that are targeting rotational mobility, shoulder mobility, glute strength, and hip mobility. Do a range of floor exercises and then do some foundational movement patterns. And we encourage our boxers to do this every single strength conditioning session, but also do it before their high intensity conditioning and their boxing training sessions. And the reason why is because they throw thousands of punches in their boxing training, and this is creating a massive imbalance rather than somebody like just doing a few little warm-ups here and there, mobilizing the shoulders, mobilizing the hips. This isn't going to create a more balanced boxer. So we try and do our mobility training every single day, twice a day, to create a little bit more balance. Doing this mobility training before your strength and conditioning, create a little bit more balance, but also get you activated, mobilized, and also potentiated going into your boxing strength and conditioning sessions. This should take around about 10 minutes to do, just doing one set on each exercise. Checkpoint number 2 is to do plyometrics. Plyometrics are really important in improving speed, power, and rate of force development. And this can transfer into you punching harder. We've seen at Boxing Science, the higher that you can jump, the harder that you can punch. And this relies on the stretch shortening cycle of the lower body. And we do this through counter movement jumps, depth jumps, altitude landings, and a range of different plyometric exercises. It's not only this, but we also use multi-directional plyometrics as well, such as ice skaters and different variations of this to help improve lateral movement and lateral power. This is fantastic not only to help improve lower body rate of force development, it's also increase potentiation to get you fired up, ready for your key lifts. So we do our jumping exercise, we also do multi-directional, do some ice skaters. Sometimes that lower body jumping exercise would be a more reactive strength focus, pogos, band-assisted pogos, and our footwork coordination drills. And this is designed to improve reactive strength going through the calf complex, which is really important for footwork, balance, running economy, but also can help transfer in towards punch power. Checkpoint number 3 is to put in punch-specific exercises. Now, this isn't as important as your general base exercises that are really promoting strength, speed, and power adaptations, but it's the icing on top of the cake. Learning how to transfer force and speed through a punch-specific action. Overloading that punch-specific action can help improve punching power, and we use a range of different exercises. We go more heavy base exercises to try and improve punching strength and rate of force development, such as landmine punch with bands, landmine punch throw, landmine punch with isometric hold at the end. That isometric hold at the end can help improve the snap of the punch, which is really important to transfer that force to create some effective mass, because if you're not strong at the end range of the punches, a lot of force is going to be dispersed. So you're maximizing the amount of force that you're producing in a punch by that whole body tension going through the upper limb and going through the core muscles and the lower body muscles as well. So we can do this with a landmine punch with isometric hold, but also we can do punch iso holds, whether that's with a medicine ball going up against a wall, whether we're giving an athlete some feedback using dynamometer, but also doing some manual holds as well, going through a range of different punch types. Then we've got our speed and power exercises, medicine ball punch throw, different variations of this where we can take a back step, which is resisting momentum. And then we've got a forward lateral step, which is assisting momentum, which is going to be providing some sort of overspeed to really challenge that ability to produce force and speed, but then also control that position. We're not just throwing the ball, leaning over the front foot, losing our shape. We're encouraging athletes to be able to transfer that force with speed, but be able to catch on the brakes. That's why sometimes we do the backhand with a lead hook to make sure that athletes are not only producing force, but they're doing this in a technically proficient way. We include at least one punch-specific exercise in normal strength conditioning sessions, but then in a taper session, we might do 2, including the banded shadow box. So before we go on to checkpoint 4, I'd like to give a quick mention to our Boxing Science training products and services that are available on our Boxing Science website, boxingscience.co.uk. You can check the link in the description, whether it's a training program to help you get fitter, faster and stronger, whether it's our Train Like Champion membership where you can improve your education around strength and conditioning and sports science in boxing, where you've got access to our huge exercise library and also some webinars and seminars on there as well. Then also we've got our brand new Ultimate Coaching for Combat Sports online workshop, gives you the full breakdown of our Boxing Science training methods. Go and check out the links in the description, and also you can get 50% off your first purchase at Boxing Science 50. So go check that out if you're wanting to help improve your performance or improve your coaching knowledge. Start implementing Boxing Science training methods wherever you are in the world. Checkpoint number 4 is hinge-based exercises. So hinge-based exercises are exercises such as deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, and also hip thrusts as well. And this is really important to strengthen the posterior chain of the lower body. Now, what's really important with this is picking out the right exercise for your athlete. If your athlete is struggling with their shoulder strength, their core stability, they might not be quite ready for your full range deadlifts. So this is why we do variations of the deadlift, whether that's a kettlebell Romanian deadlift, or one of my favorite exercises to do is a kettlebell sumo deadlift. We often do this with a band, which will help increase that rate of force development going through the lower body. We then move on to my favorite, which is the trap bar deadlift. And this is really effective because of the high handles in a neutral position. It's much easier for a boxer to hold rather than kind of being hunched over in the front. Makes it easier to retract the shoulder blades, which will keep a neutral posture going through the deadlift pattern, which makes the deadlift safer, but also helps increase the amount of load that an athlete's able to lift. Checkpoint number 5 is your squat exercises, working on that lower body, but now we've got an eccentric focus to control as well. That eccentric focus is really important for boxers because we've seen with our jump data that they struggle with that eccentric utilization going through that stretch shortening cycle. So we're wanting to use the squat exercises to help improve that lower body, to help improve eccentric strength, which then can transfer through to more powerful performance. Got a range of different exercises that we use. End goal is to use a box squat. The reason why we don't do a back squat too often is because boxers are quite imbalanced between left and right. Doing this under high eccentric loads is going to be quite difficult to do. So we often go towards the box squat with bands being our end goal. But there's a range of different exercises that we can use. We first start off with a goblet squat. Can do goblet squat with mini bands as well to increase that glute activation. Before we move on to landmine squat and different variations of the landmine squat, we can do landmine squat to press. That can transfer that force going from the lower body through the core, through to the upper body as well. Checkpoint number 6 is your upper body pressing. Upper body pressing is vital for boxing because this is the end delivery of the punch. So we need to be strong in this area to deliver fast and hard punches. What's really problematic about this area is boxers are quite tight in this shoulder complex, quite internally rotated shoulders. So working towards the end range, a horizontal push can be quite difficult. But also on our vertical pressing, which is pressing overhead, we've seen that over 66% of youth boxers exhibit really tight shoulders. So they struggle with that overhead range. With that overhead range, if we're doing some vertical pressing exercises, what they're going to do is start compensating using the lower back or not be able to load up that movement as much. So we look to use variations of pressing exercises in our horizontal pressing and vertical pressing to help keep the shoulder safe, but also to optimize the amount of load. So for horizontal pressing first, we start off with some strict press-ups, some banded press-ups, before we're moving on to dumbbell floor press and dumbbell chest press exercises. We then look at the vertical pressing, where we start off with a landmine variation first, challenging vertical pressing strength, but not compromising that shoulder joint because we're pressing in front of the head, not pressing overhead. And this is still going to be strengthening that shoulder complex, still improving tricep strength, doing it in an uncompromised position. Doing it in an uncompromised position will be better for reducing likelihood of injury, but also can help increase the amount of load. We then can progress an athlete onto heavier variations of landmine press, some dumbbell pressing as well, starting from half kneeling position before we start doing some seated shoulder press. Checkpoint number 7, pulling exercises. Pulling exercises is really important to strengthen the posterior shoulder and lat muscles because these are your decelerators. When we throw a punch, we're accelerating towards the target, but we're needing that deceleration to make sure that we're not jolting out of position. This is why boxers end up getting a lot of upper limb and also shoulder injuries because they haven't got that decelerative qualities, strength qualities going through the back muscles. And also this is really vital for combination punching because as soon as you throw a punch, you need to pull it back in nice and quick. 2 different types of pulling exercises. Horizontal, which is something like a TRX row, inverted row. Then you've got your dumbbell variations, which include a single arm bent over row and also prone rows as well. Then we've got vertical pulling. It's predominantly pull-ups and different variations of pull-ups. However, when we're going into this vertical position, like we said with the pressing, we're leaving our boxes in a very compromised position. Doing this with your full body weight there, this is going to be quite challenging to do. With boxers that struggle with their overhead mobility and strength, we often do vertical pull variations such as the single arm cable pull down to start building up them foundations for pulling strength. Checkpoint number 8 is single leg exercises. Single leg exercises is really important because we've got an imbalance between left and right due to being in that boxing stance. Some fighters are more front-footed than back-footed, but there's very often not being like 50% straight down the middle. And also, your positioning of your lead leg compared to your rear leg is more externally rotated, which will affect the amount of glute strength and glute med strength in the rear leg. And this is really important because it creates more knee stability, which will help reduce injuries, but also help improve that transmission of force, especially when you're going through onto that backhand. So it's really important to do single leg exercises to start creating some more balance between your lead and rear leg. We split this into 2 different exercise categories. We've got knee dominant and we've got hip dominant as well. Knee dominant exercises such as split squats, reverse lunges, forward lunges and step ups. And your hip dominant exercises such as single leg hip thrusts, different variations of this because this can be quite difficult to get the glutes fully activated through more advanced settings. So we do hip thrust march, do a single leg hip thrust with the knee tucked up. We also do some single leg hip thrust isometrics, going into a bar as hard as we can to really promote some strength adaptations going through the glute muscles. Also part of the hip dominant single leg exercises, we also do lateral lunges, whether that's a lateral lunge with press, kettlebell lateral lunges, and also we've got kettlebell lateral swings. Checkpoint number 9 is to do posterior shoulder exercises. Posterior shoulder exercises are really important because we get a large bias in this anterior shoulder complex and we're needing to keep strengthening that posterior shoulder to keep that shoulder in position, but also to deal with that high amounts of deceleration going through a punching action. At Boxing Science, we do various different tests with fighters to see what they need to work on specifically. But a general rule of thumb is to just really target that posterior shoulder, whether you're doing some external rotations, whether you do some sideline isometric work. Wall isometrics, really important to help improve the strength around the rotator cuff. And then we do some banded exercises, such as the single arm reverse fly. We can also do this on a cable. We've also got band pull aparts, face pulls, banded triple threats, all exercises that are really going to target that posterior shoulder complex. There's some dumbbell and body weight work that we can do with prone TYWs, prone T raises, prone Y raises as well. And then we've got some cable variations as well, where we can do half kneeling, cable, reverse flies, and we've also got TRX variations of this where we can do some TRX T raises as well. Just trying to strengthen that posterior shoulder complex to keep them shoulders strong, robust, and most importantly, injury-free. Number 10 of our very important boxing science checklist is core training. Core training really important for boxing for a range of different reasons. First of all, in our studies at Boxing Science, we found that the more muscle mass that you have around your core has the biggest impact towards your punching speed and power. So that's why at Boxing Science, we try and get boxers to maintain as much muscle mass around the trunk as possible. And you can see this with the before and after pictures, where you can see that boxers are maintaining and increasing that muscle mass, particularly around the core. So really important. But also in recent case studies at Boxing Science, we found that rotational peak force is a large contributor towards performance on a landmine punch throw. We do this with the pull-off press, isometrics, and we get a feedback with a dynamometer, and we see a large transfer between performance on here and performance on a landmine punch throw. Needing to challenge core strength and stability and try and retain core mass as much as we can, but also we're wanting to try and improve rotational strength and power. So with core training, it's not just such as sit-ups and plank variations, we're needing to make sure that we're covering 4 key areas. Anti-extension, which are exercises such as ab wheel rollouts, long levered plank holds, and also plank variations as well. We've also got anti-lateral flexion, which is challenging lateral flexion of the spine. And this is exercises such as landmine rotations, rotational planks, and also single arm farmer carries. Then we've got anti-rotation. And this is where we're really challenging rotational core strength, speed, and stability. We've got a range of different exercises that we do. We start off very isometric control versions first, such as the pull-off press, isometrics, banded pull-off press, or cable pull-off press. We also do pull-off press isometric work as well, whether that's on the cable, on the wall, or doing this with a manual resistance. Then we challenge that range of motion with cable rotations and different variations of this. And then we go on to rotational power exercises as well. And then we finish off our core training with hip flexion with neutral spine, which is basically working that abdominal muscle complex without flexing the spine. These exercises such as straight arm, straight leg sit-ups, we can do a range of different variations of this, whether that's with a weight or doing the offset with a kettlebell. Then also we've got leg lowers and our supine core holds. These are really effective in getting that burning sensation going through the core and improving muscular endurance of the core muscles. Okay, so that is the 10-stage checklist. So you can see it here now. Hopefully you've now got that ready to put into your programs. Now, how to structure this? This is really important because we've got all these different things that we need to try and put together in a single training session. It seems quite long. To keep this very basic, we do session 1, session 2. We start every single session with our mobility warm-up, mobility routine. That stays the same all the time. Then we go into an extended warm-up, which is a little power and speed circuit, which includes our plyometrics, ice skaters, and then our punch-specific exercises. And we do this back to back, and we have around about a minute off in between. And we do this for 3 sets. We then go into 3 key supersets. We do superset 1, which is our lower body lifts. We do superset 2, which are our upper body lifts. And then we've got superset 3, which is our single leg and posterior shoulder work. On session 1, we're going to do hinge exercises, and we paired that up with a core exercise such as plank shoulder tap. We then go on to horizontal push and pull, so such as a dumbbell chest press paired with a dumbbell prone row. We then go into our single leg exercises, which are something like on session 1 will be knee dominant exercises such as an offset kettlebell reverse lunge. Pair this with a posterior shoulder exercise, let's say a single arm reverse fly. We then go into our core circuit to finish, and this consists of 3 different exercises. Something like an ab wheel rollout paired with banded pull-off press, always finish with a core isometric hold. Something like a supine core hold. On session 2, this is where we're going to do our squat exercise. We pair that with another core exercise, such as like dead bugs, for example. We then do vertical press, vertical pull, and then we do our single leg exercise. So a single leg exercise would be a single leg hip thrust or single leg hip thrust march. And then we pair that again with a posterior shoulder exercise, such as like a side lying dumbbell iso hold. Again, we do a core circuit to finish. This time we might target different areas of them core pillars. This time we're going to go for a straight arm, straight leg sit up. Make sure that we put in some oblique work. So we're going to do a unilateral farmer walk, and then we're going to finish off with a long levered plank hold. So hopefully that's given you a really good insight to how to plan your strength and conditioning exercises. If you're wanting more guidance in terms of reps and sets and different exercises for different athletes, you can send me an email, dannywilson@boxingscience.co.uk, where you can get a bespoke training plan. But also you can go and check out our Boxing Science website, where we've got all this lined up for you in our Train Like a Champion program. So we've got Train Like a Champion membership, where you can just get it for £19.99 a month, or you can get a single program that you can keep forever. Download and start implementing into your gym wherever you are in the world. So that brings us to the end of the video. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching. You can take a lot away going into your strength and conditioning, whether you're preparing for amateur or professional boxing or in combat sports. If you're not subscribed yet and you enjoyed this kind of content, hit that subscribe button so we've got even more content coming up. It helps the growth of the Boxing Science channel. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you on the next video.